So for today's piece, we're going to be using about 1.5 meters of 1mm leather. We also have 2 different colors of 6/0 Miyuki seed beads. I'm going to be using some GS Hypo glue. I've got a button, I've got some large hole metal beads, and of course I've got my barrel knot tube. And look at me, I've got a pair of scissors. I never have scissors, so there you go. There's a first for everything, right? All right, so let's get started. We're going to jump right into this. So I'm not going to make this whole piece, because if I make the whole piece, then I'm going to be down here for way too long on my day off. So I'm going to make part of it, and I will explain the entire thing. So hopefully you guys don't mind if I cheat a little bit. Let me know in the comments below. Do you guys mind if I cheat? I don't, well, maybe we shouldn't call it cheating. Maybe we'll just call it being more conservative with my time. All right. So because we are using 1mm leather, we want to make sure that we're being a little bit careful with the leather and that we're not stressing it out too much. So be mindful that we are sort of jockeying our barrel knots into place versus pulling on the leather. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to take my leather, I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to put my button on there. You could use a button that just has holes in it. You don't have to use a shank button, but I like the look of these. So I am going to take my barrel knot tube, and I'm going to place it in between my leather, and I'm going to make a 3-wrap barrel knot. Now I had somebody actually leave me a comment today on one of my videos and asked me if I could create a video without using the barrel knot tube, and I politely said no. The reason why, I'm just going to get some of these things out of the way so that you can see what I'm doing. The reason that I don't is because I used to teach it years and years ago in my store without using the tube, and nobody could ever get it. They would just have such a mess with it, and me too. It was always super frustrating, and so I came up with the tube idea, and I've never looked back. So yes, you can make it without the tube, but why would you when this makes it so much easier? And if you're like, well, I don't have a tube, well, we sell them. So buy a kit and you'll get one for free. Well, you know, it's not for free. It's in the cost of the kit. But all right, so I'm going to do a 3-wrap barrel knot there. Now you will find that you'll have more difficulties with the 1mm leather than you will with the 1.5 and the 2, because it's so small. You kind of have to boss this around a lot. So make sure that they are, you know, stacking up in the right direction. Just take your time. You can see I'm going kind of slow here, and because I also am, I'm not paranoid, but I'm a little paranoid. I don't want to break my leather. You just kind of have to be mindful that you're not pulling on it. And I tend to have a heavy hand when it comes to, you know, pulling these knots tight. So I'm sort of pushing it into position there. So that's kind of what we want. All right, so I'm going to start off with my blue first. I'm going to put 3 on here. Now I would use 1.5, but you can't easily get it through these beads. So that's why I'm using the 1mm leather. So I'm going to put 3 on each side. And there you go. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to put the barrel knot tube in between. And we're going to go on the top, pull that one around. Now when we're doing these, we're only going to do 2 wraps. So on the beginning and the ends, we're going to do 3s. And in the middles, we're going to do 2 wraps. I did that because I didn't want to have a big station of leather in between. I wanted to have, you know, enough, but I didn't want it to be all leather. I wanted the beads to be the focus because these beads are just so pretty. Okay, so let me just jockey that in. I was going to tell you a story, and then I'm like, no, because I can't do that and tie knots at the same time. So what I want to do is just kind of, again, I'm being mindful that I'm not pulling on this one hard. I'm just kind of pushing them around. And don't worry if you've got a little bit of an uneven thing here. It tends to do that anyway, so I'm going with it and saying that's the way I wanted it to look. Now I'm going to put on my large hole bead, and then I'm going to create another 2-wrap knot. So my little story is, the reason this came to be in this colorway is I ordered some of these Miyuki seed beads. This is our 6-94514 that we've been out of stock for a while. And this is the new color that it came in. Normally it is a soft green turquoise, and this is a very vibrant blue turquoise, not at all like I'm used to having. So I'm like, well, I don't know if I can sell it like that. So I'm just going to do a 2 wrap here. I'll just quickly tell you. So I don't know if I can sell these as the 94514 because the color's so different. So I'm going to source them out again and see if I can get a different color. But the only way that you can get these right now is in this kit. So, you know, it's just one of those weird things. Its die lots are always different. So a little tip here is when you've got this bead on, you want to try and get your next knot as close to the end of this barrel knot tube as you can. So I'm going to kind of jockey it around. I want to create this knot very far down here. So was that good English? Very far down here? It sounds wrong. But I want to create it as close as I can because if you are too far up, it makes it almost impossible to roll that knot down there. So I will show you in a second. So if it's way up here, you have to push this all the way down and it's a good chance for it to kind of go wonky. So I will just kind of roll that into position. And there we go. So we've got our 6 beads, double barrel knot, our metal bead, and then another barrel knot. Oh, got to get the lips to work here. All right, next I need to get the next color. So there's just going to be a succession of color changes. We're going to do, you know, 6 of our blues and then 6 of our brown. I don't know what they call this. Is it tan or something? I can't even remember the name of the color, but it's one of my favorite colors. I love these Miyuki beads because the Miyuki is just the finish that they've put on there because I do get asked that question often. Okay, so this is how we're going to do that. We're going to put our tube in there. And again, I'm going to take the one on the top, come around once, twice, and take that end, put it through the back end of the tube, and then pull that tube off, holding on to that knot. I don't want it to go anywhere. And then I'm going to pull this down. So I want to pull before I'm not really tightening it up a lot. I'm just kind of, you know, I guess I am tightening it, but I'm making it just more taut than tight because I don't want to break that leather. Okay, so that's what we want. And we don't mind that little bit of free flowing in there. So again, I'm going to put on another one of my metal beads. And this is just the perfect size. It goes right over that 1 millimeter leather. So this is our antique brown leather. So, and again, I want to try to get that as close to the end as I can. So it's a little awkward, but you will thank me for this tip. Trust me. I wasn't doing it, and then I was getting super frustrated myself. So even I can get frustrated with barrel knots because they don't always work the way you want them to. Okay, so I'm nice and close there. Makes it so much easier. And that's kind of why I keep doing all these videos, so that I can teach you some tips and tricks. I had another customer reach out and say that, you know, she really loves making the barrel knots, but she just cannot get them to work. Well, what I said to her and what I say to everybody, including myself, because, you know, if you don't make them for a while, is consistency. You just have to keep trying. You got to keep trying. And the other thing that I mentioned to her was that she should like really learn to feel the leather in your fingers versus just creating a barrel knot, like just, you know, grabbing this and then putting that in there. Feel the leather. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to put my tube in. I'm going to bring this around. And again, I'm only doing 2 barrel knots on here. I'm not doing 3. I don't want all that leather. So I'm going to, when I get to this next stage is where I'm going to feel the leather. So I tighten this up, and this is where I sort of start manipulating the leather. And I kind of know by now where it's going to go, but if it's not going into position, like if one of these, if the second one is starting to come over here, then I will roll it in my fingers. I want to like kind of move that leather around with my fingers till it's in a place that I want it to be. So, you know, this particular batch of leather is a little bit more, it's not as supple as some of them. So it can be a little different. Every time you make a barrel knot, it can be a little bit different depending on the color of the leather, the coating on the leather, the size of the leather, all those kind of things. So again, you can see I've got a little bit more room here. I didn't get quite close enough. So let's see if this one goes awry. Sometimes they do. So you can see I've got quite a bit of room there to try and pull this down. So I do think it's going to work here. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just kind of pushing that into place there. Okay, so I'm actually going to stop here and I'm going to pretend and we're all going to collectively pretend that I've completed my whole bracelet, because I don't want to do this whole thing today, and I don't need to, because you guys I'll explain everything on how to finish this off. So let's pretend that I've done this all the way down. So I've got about a 7-inch wrist. Go me, it used to be an 8. So because I've lost enough weight, I'm down to about a 7-inch wrist. So I'm going to do 10 stations of these beads, and that will give me about 7 inches. Each one of these stations is just over about a 1/2 inch. So I will explain a little bit more once I'm showing you the whole piece about how to size it. Okay, so you're just going to continue the whole way like this. You're going to do, you can mix these up if you want and do a different pattern, but I just did 6 blue, the metal, 6 brown, the metal, 6 blue, and on and on. All right, so let's say that we've gone all the way to the end. Now I want to make a knot for my clasp. So I'm going to pop my button in there, and I'm going to just kind of mark it, and I know that it needs to be about that big. So I just take my thumbnail and sort of put it where I think that knot should go, and then I'm going to take my tube and put it in between, and I'm going to do 3 wraps on this one, because on my clasp I want to have a little more oomph to it. And if you wanted to, you could do 3 on the end there. It doesn't really matter. So I always put my thumb right next to where I want it to go. And you can see I was starting to manipulate that with my fingers, because I want it to kind of go where I wanted it to. And before I tighten it up, I want to make sure it's going to fit, and that fits perfectly. So again, be very mindful that you're not reefing on this, because we do not want to break that. And we can glue that so that it stays nice and tight and where you want it to. So on the end, you can embellish whatever way you want. You can do, like, I can take one of these, another one of these. You will have a few leftover beads, so you can play around on the end. You can do just knots. You can do nothing. You can, it's your piece. Even though if you buy a kit from us, you will have enough to, complete it in this manner. But you don't have to. You can do it whatever way you want. That's the nice thing about creating jewelry. So you can do one like that. And then put one of these, one of those, and then one of those on there. And that's just kind of like the little pattern that I've got. Make sure to stick around, because I'm going to show you the completed piece and also give you a little tip about sizing. So we'll just finish this off. Hope you guys don't mind that I did not do the whole thing. When it's so repetitive like that, there really isn't any point. So now you can see that knot kind of went wonky, so I'm going to just boss it back to where I wanted it to go. So as long as you feel the leather in between your fingers, you can usually get it to go where you want. Okay, so now what I would do is come in, trim that off wherever you want. I don't like to do it too short, but I like a little bit of fringe there. Then I'm going to take my GS Hypo, and I'm going to put a blob right there and a blob right there. And then I'm going to put some right there, kind of where that crosses over there. I'm going to put some there. And I'm also going to put a little bit here. We want to make sure that this is nice and secure, so that this doesn't move around, and so that our ends don't come apart. All right, so let me just clean up, and I will get the completed piece. All right, so there's the completed piece. Look at how cute this is. I absolutely love this one. I know I say that about all my pieces, but I'm patting myself on the back right now. I do love how it turned out, though. I think the combination of these two colors is so nice together. So you can see I've done 10 stations of 6. So like I said, this will fit about a 7-inch wrist. Now, what if you had a 6.5, or if you had an 8? So we're going to give you enough beads to get up to about an 8-inch wrist. The other thing that you can do before you're cutting the ends off is you can add extra knots in. So let's say that you just needed it extended by just a little bit. Because what I did was I just was creating it. Let's see, I did it like this. And then it's kind of hard to show you guys what I do. So I just kind of went to about here, because I know that if I do it to about here, once I get my knot on there, you see how it's going to be perfect. It just fits me perfectly there. So let's say that I needed this just a little bit bigger, and I didn't want to add a whole station, because every one of these stations is going to add about a 1/2 inch, which is a whole size pretty much. So if I only needed, I don't know, like a 1/4 inch, what I would probably do is I would have made these into like, I would have maybe added like 3 wraps on the end, or I could have added like just 2 more beads and then a wrap. You can do whatever you want in the end to add a little bit more length. You will have enough of these large hole metal beads to do one more. So you could do like a knot, a large hole bead, a knot, and then another large hole bead, and then another knot. Maybe make the last one 3. You know, so you can play around with it a little bit. So each one of these is going to sort of take off a full size. So you're going to have to kind of just play a little. So as I mentioned, this will be available in kit form. If you want to access the kits, you just go into the description box below the video and there will be a link that will take you to my fully secure brand new website. Go have a look. It is beautiful. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and let me know if you are going to give this one a try. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate it if you do so, as it really does help it out. I want to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.